Let's go to Candice Malcolm, founder and editor-in-chief of True North News right now, and ask that same question. Is it enough for... good morning, first of all, Candice.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me this morning.
No problem. So is it enough for Paul Chiang just to say, sorry, bad move on my part?
Well, let's unpack this a little more, right? Like, what is he accusing Joe Tay of doing, right? Joe Tay is the conservative candidate who he said should be turned over to the communist regime, basically, for the crime, Kevin, of advocating for freedom in China, for freedom in Taiwan. That is what he did. It's not like he was involved in any kind of criminal enterprise. It's not like he was out there pushing propaganda for the communist regime. Quite the opposite. He was using his Canadian rights and freedoms that we guarantee in this country. So the fact that a Liberal candidate wants to basically impose communist China's rules and edicts in our country is so disturbing. The fact that this person stands shoulder to shoulder with Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, who has been unelected himself, who has close ties to China himself. This is so disturbing, Kevin. And I think that Canadians deserve to be outraged. They deserve to have answers from the Prime Minister as to why these kinds of shenanigans are happening at the very top levels of our government.
And again, it's that worry of what's already happening in the U.S. It's already disturbing enough. The number of times people calling for the arrest of their opponents simply for political actions or actions that were sanctioned by courts, and it sneaks up north here. And this guy is a cop. That's Paul Chiang is actually, he's a police officer. He should know better.
Well, I mean, listen to this, okay? So the entire Liberal campaign right now is basically they've turned it into a conversation about Canada's sovereignty. They're saying that our very nation is under threat from Donald Trump, the United States, and we have to put our elbows up and fight for Canada. And yet at the same time, Kevin, they're allowing the Chinese Communist government to infiltrate our country and our society. There have been long-time reports of secret Chinese police stations in Canada intimidating the Chinese diaspora community and ensuring that people don't criticize the communist regime. This is sort of evidence that this is true, that this is happening in our country. And the fact that Mark Carney is okay with it, that he's saying, you know, this candidate, Paul Chiang, apologized, let's all just move on. I mean, the fact that this person is still a candidate for the Liberal Party, I think it tells you everything you need to know about Mark Carney and the Liberal Party, the fact that they don't really take Canadian sovereignty that serious. There is a real threat to our nation, and it comes from communist China, who has infiltrated our elections, infiltrated apparently our police stations and our politics, and our Prime Minister is absent and saying nothing about it. I completely agree with Pierre Poilievre. I think that this is incredibly disturbing, and this candidate needs to go.
And it's not just the Conservatives calling for his ouster. Here's NDP MP Jenny Kwan.
The comments from the Liberal candidate, Paul Chiang, is absolutely astounding. He is a police officer, and he ought to know that when the CCP went out and put a bounty on anybody, including Canadians, that cannot be acceptable. That is intimidation at its worst. And yet, he played right into it. He advocated for people to bring him to the Chinese consulate to collect the bounty. In what universe is this normal?
And this brings up as well the dog whistle factor in all of this as well. Not only calling for the arrest of a political opponent, but sort of sending it. Now, I'm not saying he's sending a message out there, but some people receive that message as, okay, I'm off to do that.
Well, it's terrifying, and I completely agree with the NDP MP there. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. All Canadians should unite in saying that we don't want adversarial, hostile foreign regimes interfering in our country, in our civic affairs, in our elections. And you know, this really highlights a concerning deeper integration that we have with China under Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party. I've interviewed Sam Cooper, who's an investigative journalist, and he's done painstaking efforts to connect Justin Trudeau with top-level communist officials and people who are running the fentanyl drug trade. And it's concerning that Mark Carney seems to have similar relations. The Conservatives exposed last week that he took a $274 million loan from the Chinese state government while he was advising Prime Minister Trudeau. This is a very concerning relationship with a very hostile regime that doesn't share our values. Again, I think that Canadians should be worried about sovereignty with regards to China. Yes, sure, we should tell the Americans to bugger off and tell Trump to leave us alone, but we should have the same message to the communist regime in China. And I worry that this Liberal Party just doesn't take that threat seriously at all.
Well, you know what? There wasn't very much honor in politics before. There's not much left of what there was in politics. It is becoming so polarized. And it's tough to tell players without a card right now. So I want to find out what people think. Do you think that Paul Chiang should resign, not just apologize? Give me a text, 416-870-6400, or you can talk to me on air, 416-870-6400. Candice Malcolm, founder and editor-in-chief of True North News, thank you so much for this time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. Great to talk to you.